friends, in today's vlog, I wanted to share with you guys what exactly I mean by the term minimalism. I would call ourselves pretty much minimalists in life. And I'm going to share with you 5 things that is and 5 things that isn't when we use that term. So come hang out with me. We're going to chat all about this today. Welcome back. If you are new, thank you so much for being here. You guys, please make sure if you enjoyed this, you find any value whatsoever, that you like and subscribe. It means so much in helping our little family channel and ministry here grow, praying that we can serve and encourage other families all around the world. I love seeing your guys' comments and getting your messages. You guys are so sweet and encouraging. So thank you so much for being here. So we were talking a little bit about being a keeper at home and just homemaking and cleaning and things like that, keeping our homes a nice and comforting space for our families. If you guys missed my total home reset, you guys can check that video out right up here, and be sure you tune in tomorrow because we're going to be continuing this theme throughout the rest of the week. But today I wanted to talk to you about the term of minimalist or minimalism. This is something that we see all over the internet, and it's something that I talk about a lot as well. And so I thought, before we dive any deeper into this, I might as well explain what I mean when I say minimalist, what that is and what that isn't, because I think that term can really be different for everybody depending on where you're at in your stage of life. And I think sometimes we hear the idea of minimalist and we go, oh my gosh, I could never do that. And so we kind of just check out from there. But I think there's a little bit more to it than maybe you first understood. And so let's go ahead and chat about that here today. So I shared that video about my whole home reset, and I know I always hear comments like, oh my gosh, I wish I could do that, but I have so much stuff. I could never do that in 2 hours, completely clean and reset my house. I'm getting ready to show some more Clean With Me videos coming up this week, and I know that's something that just comes up so often. And my answer for so much of it is minimalism. That was something that was so big to me in all of this with our minimalist journey. And if you guys want, you can I have a free ebook called Minimalist Home where I talk about my process to this and what led to it. You guys can get that down in the description at our shop if you guys would like to do so. But really, for me, that was one of the big pieces to it. There is my husband, myself, we have 4 children, a bajillion animals, and I usually have 1 to 3 additional people living in our home. So yes, over the past decade, we have had anywhere from 6 to 9 people living in our house at all times. And so something with just that many people is you accumulate a lot of stuff. There's a lot of moving pieces, and especially we've worked from home and we homeschool and we do all of that. So we need our home to be a functional space, bare minimum. And so with all the people and all this stuff, it can be very overwhelming very quickly. Now for me, I cannot work in a space when there's a ton of distraction. Blame it on the ADHD. I can't do it. And especially with a lot of kids and a lot of moving pieces, I had to have a system. And so stumbling upon this line of minimalism was something that was so huge to me, because I was like, oh my gosh, finally, I can feel like I have some sort of like control in this space instead of just feeling so overwhelmed at all times. And so maybe you're feeling like that, or you're struggling with this, or maybe you've kind of been in the same boat and found this as well. So let's go ahead and talk about the 5 things that when I use the term minimalism, I do not mean. These are not what I'm thinking of when I say minimalism. And it might be, I think, what a lot of people kind of view it as, and maybe for some people this is what it is, but for me, this isn't where I am. The first thing would be sterile. I think of I remember when Kanye and Kim Kardashian, right, their minimalist home in Calabasas was all over the news, and they're showing the pictures, and it's like a concrete box, right? It was just very sterile. I mean, a hospital room was probably more inviting than that. And to me, when I think of minimalism, I don't want sterile. That's not at all what I'm going for in my space. The second thing that I certainly do not mean when I use the term minimalism is just void of all joy. You see some magazines or Pinterest images of these minimalist homes, and there's just nothing happy about the space. It is just very, I don't know, it just you wouldn't be in that space and feel this just like comfort and joy and sense of, retreat from the world that I feel like our homes should offer. And so when I use the term minimalism, that is not what I'm going for. The third thing that I would say is definitely not on my agenda is perfectionism. I think a lot of times we see these, and again, for some people, maybe they work great, but it's very specific and everything has to be perfect at all times. And that's exactly what they're going for. That is not my house whatsoever. There is no line of perfectionism anywhere in here. Now, myself, I can absolutely be a perfectionist. Is that what I want in my home and the atmosphere I want to create for my family? Absolutely not. That is not an environment that I want. The fourth thing here would be just an overall sense of drabness. I think you see that also a lot along with it being sterile, is everything is just very drab. Now, I love neutral colors. My entire house is painted white. I definitely am a fan of clean and simple. But again, I think that kind of goes hand in hand with just that void of joy. Everything is drab and almost depressing. That is not what I want in my home. And then the fifth point that I would say for myself specifically, when I talk about minimalism, I'm not talking about hard, strict rules and lines of this is what minimalism is, right? I know there's some people, they do challenges of, only have X amount of items that you own all together. That's it. And if you need that sort of structure, then go for it. That's fantastic. But I definitely do not have any set, this is the box that contains minimalism and you must fit in the box in order to be there. That is not what I mean. So now that we have an understanding there, here are the 5 things that I absolutely do mean when I talk about minimalism. They serve me amazingly. I feel very strongly convicted just biblically about these and being a good steward and truly being heavenly minded in all areas of my life. And I think that regardless of the situation, it can serve you as well. And that's why I want to share it. So the first thing that I absolutely do mean when I talk about minimalism, it's comforting. So often, I feel like especially in Western culture, our homes can really become a place of just overwhelming chaos, frustration, just disorganization. It's too much. Most all of us, if we live in any form of Western society, we have too much. And most of the time what I hear from people is their homes feel overwhelming. There's always so much. You can never get to it all. There's always closets or garages or attics or basements that are just crammed with so much stuff. You have a list a mile long of things that you need to get to someday, but yet your life is busy, so that day never actually shows up. And then this vicious cycle just keeps going and going and going. To me, when I say a minimalist home, I want a home that is comforting, that can truly nourish our family and any the Lord brings to us, to come into our home. It can be comforting. The second thing I mean is it is prioritized. There are some areas that really need to be simple, streamlined, put together. I prioritize those. There are other areas where we don't need to be as strict or, on point with it. That can kind of take a backseat or be a little more loose. But being able to keep our home and just our lives, our stuff, our everything prioritized, excuse the dogs running through the house, is something that is just so freeing and helpful in life, to be able to have that clarity and simplicity in the home, that we can keep our priorities in order. We're not always perfect at it. I'm not saying that, but giving ourselves kind of taking away that overwhelm, that chaos, that just, oh my gosh, there's so much, I don't know where to start. I can keep my priorities in order. Third point here, when I say minimalism, in my opinion, it is flexible. Absolutely. There is no specific box that you have to fit in. It's flexible. Different seasons call for different things. Different stages of our kids' lives, our lives, what we have going on, that just calls for different stuff. Now, there are going to be some periods where you see me and it is bare bone minimal. That's what we need in our life right then, or that's what's working, or whatever it is. But then there's other areas where you'd probably look at me and go, you are the furthest thing from a minimalist in the whole wide world. You're right, it probably does look that way, because maybe we're in a in-between phase, maybe we're having to focus somewhere else, whatever it is that's going on. Absolutely, minimalism is flexible. And I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that really, especially for those of us that profess to follow Christ, it's a heart issue more than it's even a physical issue. I feel like it's a heart issue you deal with and you see the result in a physical way, but it really can be flexible to work to you, your family, where you're at, what you need right now. That leads us to our fourth point, that it's ever changing. This is not a one size fits all. This is not a special, you got to check off all these boxes, be this high to ride, whatever it is. It is ever changing. It depends on where you're at. It depends on the process you're going through. It depends on all the factors that the Lord has put into your life right now. And then 20 years down from that, right? It depends on where you're at. And so you don't need to feel like this is the box that minimalism is, and until I can fit in that mold, I'm not there. That's not it. So if that's how you've kind of felt about it in the past, I promise you that's not how it works. And then my fifth point here that minimalism really boils down to is just life simplified. This kind of plays with the point of priorities. Knowing what is important, knowing where your priorities are. What is it that the Lord has truly put in your path that you should be putting your time and focus and attention into today? I know for me, when I was always overwhelmed and trying to keep up with everything and there's so much stuff and I never could get through it and so much, being piled on, I felt like I never did any of the things that I wanted to or felt I needed to be doing that day because I was so busy trying to keep up over here and put all these little fires out. And then these days and weeks and months and years would go by and I'm like, if that was my last week to live, is that honestly how I would have spent it? That type of a feeling. And so for me, the more I simplified, the more I let go, the more I addressed those heart issues that I had and those feelings of thinking things needed to be a certain way, the more I dealt with that and I let go of that, the more that I could focus on the things that truly matter. The things with my husband, my relationship with my children, serving friends and family and putting into our ministry and things of that nature. Simplifying everything was like the key in that I had been looking for my whole life and never knew that that's what it was. And so for me, when I think of what is minimalism, that's what it is. It's comforting. It's nourishing, right? I have my priorities in order and I know what's what. It's flexible and ever changing, so it fits us where we're at and is tailored, to that stage of our lives. And it just overall is that simplicity. And that's where I say, I think many of these characteristics here are things that we're all deep down looking for in our lives. Maybe we don't realize it, but I really do think that in all of us, deep down in our soul, like that's what it is that we crave. And when we live in a world full of so much overindulgence, so much excess, so much busyness, so much chaos, so much fear and just emotionalism and all that around us, that it's really hard to hit the pause button, back up and say, okay, hold on. What here is actually working for me? What here is actually what I want? What here is actually serving our family in whatever season of life we're currently in? I want to do that. I want to hit that pause button and take that step back and go, wait a second. Let's think about this, right? What do we need right now? What will truly nourish us, right? What is it that we need to focus on? If this is my last day, my last week, month, year, because none of us know at that time, and it's okay. I want to stop and think, is this really how I would want to be spending my time? Organizing, reorganizing, being overwhelmed by junk, constantly cleaning, constantly shuffling stuff around. That's not my idea of the best time in the whole wide world. So for me, I would say that's what minimalism isn't and what it is and what I want to focus on in my life. So if that is something that speaks to you, that you're going, oh my gosh, yes, I'm so sick of feeling that way too. Again, you guys can get that Minimalist Home ebook. It is free at our shop. Just click on the link down there. I will send that over to you all. For those of you who are ready to dive in, to get started, to make your home just feel like that place of refuge and comfort, that it can truly nourish your family and in whatever capacity it is you're dealing with. You just want to feel like you have some sort of like order in your home and you're not just constantly overwhelmed by the chaos, you guys be sure to subscribe. And when you do, tap that little bell notification, because we have videos coming out all the time about that. We have a Heavenly Minded Homemaker playlist we can put up here if you guys want some more encouragement. And if you want a little something extra to watch today, might I recommend this video right here. Tap the subscribe before you go. We'll see you guys all right back here tomorrow. Bye, friends.